Chapter 5. Which truck should I choose? Starting now. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, hold on. Give me just a sec here. I gotta switch. I need to make a switch here. Boom, 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 boom. Boom. Here we go. We're gonna keep it rolling. We're gonna keep it rolling. All right. We're going to a session of Instagram Live as well, so they can tune in as well. Chapter 5. Which truck should I choose? Very important chapter. Here's chapter 5. I'm on the phone making some type of a deal. So here we go. Chapter 5. Which truck should I choose? The old saying is, nobody sells a truck that's making money. And for the most part, that is true. But there are a couple of exceptions to this rule that I've found. Usually it's either an owner-operator who did so well that he's now retiring. That's my favorite. Or he's selling the truck that got him to retirement. Or sometimes an owner-operator will be upgrading to a newer truck and doesn't fully realize what he or she is getting rid of. Next would be someone selling because of bad health or a death in the family that resulted in having to sell off the inherited truck. So really, it's three things. Either an owner-operator who's retiring and he's selling his truck, that's who I want to buy it from. Or an owner-operator who's upgrading to a newer truck and doesn't realize that he's getting rid of a moneymaker truck. Or 3, somebody who's selling off because of bad health or a death in the family. So here in red it says, besides this, the exceptions are far and few, and the old saying goes back into motion. Nobody sells a truck that is making money. Which is why so many successful owner-operators keep their trucks for so long and or forever. A lot of guys, once they find the right truck, they work the kinks out of it and consistently make money in it. They just keep it forever, and then they keep rebuilding it. Before I go any further, I will say this chapter is mostly about buying a used truck. I will talk a bit at the end of this chapter on the pros and cons of buying new. Some people really prefer the strategy of buying new. I personally do not like the new truck strategy. But, like I said, I'll explain more later, and ultimately, there's nothing wrong with either way. If it works for you, then it works, okay? So, for the record, if you are a fleet owner, some of this chapter won't apply to you as much as it does for the one truck owner-operator. There's still value for you here as a fleet owner, but it's a different strategy a fleet owner must have compared to the one truck owner operator. In a one truck operation, there's only one truck producing the revenue, and it must be reliable. In a 3 to 5 truck operation, there's more than one truck producing revenue, though reliability is still important, but so is driver's comfort. You know, the driver that you're wanting to keep. So it's a trade-off there. So we'll keep it moving in here in the red. It says, it's pretty difficult to convince a fleet of drivers to be rolling around in older pre-emission trucks that don't look as nice as the newer trucks. With 3 to 5 trucks in motion, there's more incoming cash flow to justify paying dealers and etc. to work on your trucks. But for the single truck owner operator, can't really afford to just throw money at every little problem. We need a truck that's going to be easy to work on, something we can truly increase our profit margins in. In my opinion, probably about 90% of the trucks out here that are for sale, regardless of their age, are pretty much junk that I would never build my business on. They are also usually someone else's problem that they couldn't afford anymore, so they get rid of it. Or maybe it's just an abused big fleet emissions truck that got traded in at 500,000 miles. Neither is a truck I will build my business around. I know too much to gamble on these trucks, or these, the way I wrote it said junk trucks, because some dealership armor all the tires, cleaned the inside, washed the motor, and told me, hey Andrew, this is a fleet maintained truck. All right. In my opinion, most trucks that hit the truck lots are junk. Sorry. But especially if they come from a big fleet, because we just need to think about it, right? Big fleets usually attract the drivers of lower skill level and or integrity. So, what do we have? Grinding gears, mashing of the brakes, lugging low RPMs while climbing hills, idling the truck all the time, and etc. Then you factor in that any truck after 2012 has a full emission system of EGR, DOC, DPF, and DEF. This motor has almost lived its first full life by the time it almost hits the lot at 400,000 to 750,000 miles. I'll have to explain later in my maintenance chapter how the emission system hurts the motor so bad. But basically, the recycling of dirty exhaust as fresh intake produces soot in the oil. The little soot particles build up over time and produce friction in the moving parts of the motor, especially in the valves of the cylinder head, the cam or cams, and the bearings. Oil is supposed to lubricate, right? Not cause friction. This friction from the soot in the oil causes resistance in the moving parts, wearing them out much faster and causing all sorts of problems in the long run. This turns a million mile, or what used to be a million mile motor, into a 400,000 to maybe 750,000 mile motor before needing rebuild. Which means if you're buying this truck at 500,000 miles, you could be very close, if not overdue, for a motor rebuild already, depending on who you're buying it from, especially when we're talking big used and abused fleet trucks. So be careful. This is the type of stuff you really need to know, which also the cost of rebuilding these newer motors will be somewhere in that $15,000 to $25,000 range, or more, depending on what we let them upcharge us on. Which truck should I choose is a very important subject. Please do not rush this process, because choosing the wrong truck can really put you in a disadvantage or even out of business. When looking for a truck, I want you to be thinking more along the lines of looking for a motor. Excuse me. Looking for a motor. And what I mean by this is, instead of looking for a Peterbilt, more so we'd be looking for a motor first. Because all trucks are built pretty well, but what separates them almost the most is their motor. I will make some motor recommendations in just a sec, but I made the mistake early on by buying a brand of truck instead of really knowing the motor and the driveline. I bought a Peterbilt and didn't even know what type of motor I had. So sad. So don't be me back then, right? There are many things to consider when choosing your truck, and unfortunately for a new buyer, you may not have the experience or the eye for spotting these things. I'll do my best in this chapter to translate my experience and eye into usable information for you. Yep. You have somebody here in chat, Henry, saying Detroit 60. Yup. The 12.7 before 2003. Yup. That's one of the money makers. Plus, I will have many photos in my pre-purchase inspection ebook showing exactly what I'd be checking and where to look and what I'd be checking for. Our truck is a tool. When we are out truck buying, do what you can not to get emotionally attached to the looks or the cosmetics of a truck. Right? We all see that truck that looks cool and we just maybe we get a little too attached to it without really looking at what's going on with it, huh? So with that being said, it's best to know your operation first. Then we can better select our truck. There's no sense in buying a mid-roof truck if you're hauling a van or a reefer trailer, And there's no sense in getting a gear ratio too tall if you're not driving 70 plus miles an hour. A lot of guys go out and buy a truck first and don't even know what company they're going to lease it to. They don't know how much money they plan to make or even what type of trailer they'll be pulling. Do your best not to be in this situation. Do what you can to figure all of this out first before you buy a truck. What I'm looking for in a truck is dependability. So I'm looking for the ease of being able to do my own maintenance on it. I'm looking at the cost of parts and the overall attractiveness and appeal to me. I'm looking to find my truck off of Craigslist or from a private sale of some kind. These are where you are more likely to find the best trucks and the best deals, from a private sale or a Craigslist, pretty much anywhere but a truck lot. If you're starting off with low cash or financing, maybe you could try a place like Lone Mountain. That's what I did originally. But knowing what I know now, most of these trucks are not trucks that I would want to build to run my business in. I want to know the owner of the truck. I know I'm pretty picky truck buyer. I want to know the owner of the truck. I want to interview him or her. I want to get a feel for his or her character and personality. I want to get a feel for his knowledge and mechanics. I want to know what he's fixed already, what he thinks might be on the horizon for future repair. I want to see if the seller is clean and takes care of himself, because if he's taking care of himself and is clean, this is an indicator to me that he's more likely to have took great care of his truck too, if you see what I'm saying. I want to know why he's selling the truck. Why? That's a very important question. Why? I want to get a feel for if he's been successful in this truck. And this is why I say don't rush this process. Do what you can not to rush this process, because the more of this that we can figure out, the more confidence we can have going into this deal. Especially if we know that he's already been successful and he's doing well, if he's retiring or whatever the case may be. That gives us, I don't want to buy somebody else's, just their lack of success and everything that came with it. So, because we know if they were not able to maintain a certain level of success, then eventually they stop putting money into the truck, and the money, the truck has a lot of things that are probably just right around the corner from needing our direct attention. Excuse me. So, finding a great truck can definitely become a process, but so if you do this right, it usually takes time. You might go through 5 to 15 trucks until you select the right one for you. But yes, there's always a chance that the very first truck you go to and look at becomes the one as well. But the time that we spend on the front end will put us in a much better financial position. If we rush this process, we can very well end up with somebody else's junk, a big bank loan or cash invested, and constant time and money spent in the shops. Wouldn't we rather just want to do what we can to skip all of that and just invest our time into the truck buying process instead? Taking a little bit more time on the front end can really help set us apart as far as what situation we're dealing with on a day-to-day. You want to try to be able to get the vibe of the seller. You want to see if he's someone who cuts corners and lets his equipment go without maintenance. You want to see if he has integrity. If not, you may be riding around in some sloppy repair work that he did or let someone else do. You want to make sure he does things the right way, okay? However you define that, just doing things without cutting corners. I know this might sound like overkill, but it isn't. You are the one that's going to spend $10,000 to $50,000 plus. You are the one that's accepting the bank loan. You are the one building your business around this truck. You are the one that stayed disciplined long enough to save up this much cash in the first place. You are the one that will be responsible for the repairs and maintenance of this truck. So please, do not shoot yourself in the foot. Give yourself the best opportunity. Don't rush this process. Learn to say no and really get a feel for who you're doing business with, because you are buying the original owner's habits, whether they were positive or negative. Know what it is you want and what it is that you're looking for. We got to man up, woman up, and take responsibility, right? Don't just take a shop or a dealer's word for it. Please don't do that. It's not uncommon for the mechanics to just know the dealers in the area, and they will all kind of, work a little deal out together to get you to buy. Especially if they know you're a first-time buyer or not so savvy of a truck owner. They might tell you, hey, go take it down to, we got a local shop down there, Jimmy's. And, Jimmy and the owner, Tony, of the car lot, the truck lot, they both know each other. So Jimmy passes the trucks all the time to send them right back to Tony. They don't care. Can't rule it out. With the information you're getting from me, and by applying this mentality that I'm showing you, I think you will be much more successful at finding and selecting your truck. Page 16. Let's get a little more specific. Let me make sure I'm still recording. Boom. Okay. Let's get a little bit more specific. At this point in my business, I'm only looking for pre-emission motors that will put the age of truck down to a 2003 or older. In 2004, they started with the EGR valve, and in 2008, the diesel particulate filter (DPF) and the diesel oxidation catalyst, which is the DOC. Both of these come out, in 2008. They are fragile to cracking, and if your emission system isn't running spot on, these filters like to clog up and not bake the soot out fast enough. This causes you to have to go to dealers and get them to do a forced regen on the truck. And if you've driven an emission truck for a company, I'm sure you've already experienced what a forced regen is. So imagine actually owning this truck with these filters. Not my preferred cup of tea. Have you ever heard that loud truck next to you that keeps revving up and up and up and up overnight when you're trying to go to sleep? Chances are it's an emissions truck trying to bake soot out of the filters by doing a regen. Just so unnecessary in my opinion. And a lot of the times it can't get hot enough to even bake it, and it's still left with some stuff because really the sensors are not reading right, or this part is not opening up right, the EGR valve or whatever it is, right? A lot of times it's sensor related, that it'll just sit there and bake and bake and bake and bake and not bake. Then they tell us that we need to get new filters. Then, if that was not enough, in 2012 they introduced what? The SCR system, Selective Catalytic Reduction, in the DEF, the diesel exhaust fluid. So by 2012, we have all these emission systems going on at once inside the truck. Each one of these systems has its own sensors, parts, and sets of problems. The sad thing is, many of those sensors can shut you down easy or derate your motor where you can only go at very slow speeds. Buying the DEF fluid alone brings an additional cost to your business, and these parts for emissions are very expensive. Well, I don't want to say very expensive. They are expensive. They're not cheap, right? They're not cheap. Let's say that. That's accurate. I'm trying to tell you. Remember how I just told you that the DPF and DOC are about $3,000 each? Well, the DEF pump, DEF sensors, and etc. are expensive too. Since I've never owned a truck newer than 2009, I can't personally speak on the exact prices of DEF parts, but I do have a friend in a 2012, and I hear the many stories out here of how it's not cheap. I did lease years ago a 2012 587 Peterbilt at Prime for about 6 months, and it had DEF. But when the trucks are that new, they do pretty well. They do decent. It isn't until they hit about 400,000 miles that they really start to show their status of being a true shop queen. But yes, there are exceptions to the rule. But generally speaking, when these 2008 and newer trucks hit about 400,000 to 500,000 miles, they really start to show the abuses that an emission system will make. At 300,000 miles and up, I would not want anything to do with that truck. That's just me, personally. Sorry, if you're already in one of these trucks, doesn't mean that Doesn't change anything about your success per se. We'll talk about what you'll have to do, in order to stay competitive with a truck like this. But really, with anything more than 300,000 miles, I don't even want a truck that's 2012 to 2017. Probably not even a 2008 to 2017. I mean, the damage has already been done. Even the new trucks under 100,000 miles are having many issues, mostly emission related. I mean, just look at how many big fleet trucks you see that are calling on the phone for a tow truck, right? Some people swear by, oh, these new trucks are great, or oh, they're not so bad. Either way, either they haven't owned the truck for long, or they are in the buy new and trade it back in every 4 years once the warranty runs out type of crowd. And I put warranty into quotes because that's pretty much what a warranty is. In many cases, is a so-called warranty. Excuse me. These warranty companies are usually no good. Just telling you the straight truth from the way I know it, and will fight us tooth and nail to not cover the cost of the repair. There's usually a back and forth game where the shop takes pictures of the failed part, they send it to the warranty company. The warranty company then decides whether the picture is even clear enough, and then they decide if they're going to warranty or not. This process might take a day or 2 days sometimes, so it's still costing you money sitting there for them to play this game, right? So now you might have wasted 2 days to get into the dealership. Another day is gone, so now we're on 3. Let me put my finger. No, 3. While one of their new guys are poking around at it, they send the warranty claim in later that day. The warranty company might not come back with an answer until tomorrow, so now we're at 4 days. Tomorrow comes and they approve it, but they don't even have the parts and it had to be overnighted. So now we're at 5 days process. First of all, so we get the part the next day and it makes the check engine light go off. Woohoo! Just long enough to go book to the trailer. Next load, you hook up to your trailer and boom, check engine light comes right back on in their parking lot. No thanks. So much for that warranty. They didn't even know what would fix it, right? Chances are they were just replacing whatever their diagnostic computer suggested. So now you're right back at waiting to get back into the same shop again. Keep in mind, you're still paying for your own hotel and food every day. You're not making any new money, and your truck payment is still due, and so are your home bills, your trucking insurance, and your home responsibilities. Some people call this security or peace of mind when they explain the reasoning for buying new trucks. But in this example, you just wasted 1 week of warranty work and still owe $1,500 to $3,000 a month for that truck, still owe insurance, and you still really don't know if that fixed your problem. It's my opinion, through experience, that these emission systems just add too many variables and too much unnecessary risk. So do what you can to get a pre-2004, 2003 and back. Whenever the opportunity presents itself, snatch it up. Now, let me say this as a disclaimer. Newer trucks do have the potential to get way better fuel mileage. Some owners say this increased fuel mileage makes up for the increased maintenance cost. And mathematically speaking, this does have some truth to it. Let's say at 100,000 miles per year divided by 6 miles per gallon, it would take 16,666 gallons. So this amount of gallons times, let's say $2.25 for fuel, is 37,500 on fuel. Now let's do the same math. Traveled at 7 miles per gallon in the newer truck, it would take 14,000 gallons. The 14,000 gallons multiplied by the same cost of fuel is 32,000. So that's at about a $5,000 difference per MPG. But additional maintenance costs for the average emission system can easily be $5 to $10K per year or more. Sometimes it will be less, but I average right around 6 to 7 miles per gallon in my pre-emission motor. So for a higher MPG to make sense for me, I would need to be seeing 8 to 9 miles per gallon consistently to account for the additional cost of maintenance. Your average new truck these days still aren't getting 9 miles per gallon consistently yet. And remember, at the time of this recording, and remember that additional cost and maintenance really doesn't account for your downtime, of missing loads, covering your living expenses, and covering your fixed costs, and etc.